Okay, this is the video for page 296, 25 to 31 odd, 45 to 65 odd. Okay, so your homework was 26 to 32 and 48 to 66. Here we go. All right, factor each polynomial. So we're factoring by grouping. All right, so remember, you're going to group what has in common. So you're going to group these two and then these two. So the first two have a in common, so you're going to factor out an a, and what's left behind is b plus 3. And then the second group has a 2 in common, so it's a positive 2, and then what's left is b plus 3. Remember, the point is that what's left in the parentheses is the same, so that you can then factor that out. So now looking, what do they have in common? They both have a b plus 3 in common. So we bring the b plus 3 to the front, and then what's left is an a plus 2. So then you write that together, and your answer is b plus 3 times a plus 2. Or a plus 2 times b plus 3. Doesn't matter which way you write it. Okay? So here, let's group things together. We're going to group here and here, and then make sure you include the negative with it. Okay, remember, if your third term is negative, you will always factor a negative out of the second binomial. Okay, so you're going to factor an a out of the first one, and you're left with c plus 4. And then the second one, remember, because the third term is negative, you're going to factor a negative out of the second binomial. So you're going to factor a negative 2 out, which is going to leave c plus 4. Because if you factor a negative 2 out of negative 8, you get positive 4. And the reason you do that is because now you have c plus 4 and c plus 4. If you had only factored a positive 2 out, this would be c minus 4, and these would not match up. Remember, the whole purpose is for these to match up. So now what do you have left here? A minus 2. And then what's in your parentheses? C plus 4. Okay, so it doesn't matter what order you write these in. You can either be a minus 2 times c plus 4 or c plus 4 times a minus 2. Either one is the same thing. Okay, so again, because my third term is negative, you're going to factor a negative out of the second. So we're going to do these two, and then just go ahead and include the negative in there so you don't get confused. So I'm going to factor just an x out of the first piece, leaving me 2y minus 3. And then out of the second one, I'm going to factor out a negative 2. And that's going to leave me 2y minus 3. See how they match up? So you're left with x minus 2 and 2y minus 3. If they don't match up, you're doing something wrong. Okay? All right, so again, my third term is negative, so you're going to be factoring a negative out of the second part. So out of the first part, I've got 12 and 8, so I can factor a 4 out. And I've got x and x, so I can factor an x out. So that leaves me 3y minus 2. I'm going to factor a negative because my third term was negative. So I'm going to factor out negative 1. And that's going to leave me 3y minus 2. See how they match up now? So I'm left with 4x minus 1 and 3y minus 2. If I hadn't factored out a negative 1, my parentheses would not match up. Okay? All right. Now factor each polynomial. So again, we're factoring by grouping. So this, my third term here is positive, so now you don't have to worry about factoring out a negative. So I'm going to factor out, I have 6 and 10, so I can factor out a 2. And I have x and x, so I can factor out an x. So I'm left with 3y plus 5. And then back here, I'm going to factor out, I've got a 9 and a 15, so I'm going to factor out a 3. And then I'm left with 3y plus 5. Okay, so then I've got 2x plus 3 on the outside. And on the inside of the parentheses, I've got 3y plus 5. Okay, and you can always check your work by distributing to see if you get the same thing you started with. Okay, all right, let's try. Now my third term is negative, so make sure you group that negative with the second group, And you know in your second binomial, you're going to be factoring out a negative. So in my first binomial, I've got x, y, and 3y. So the only thing they have in common is y. So what's left is x plus 3. And in the second binomial, I know I'm factoring out a negative. The only thing they have in common is 5. So I'm going to factor out a negative 5. And I'm left with x plus 3. So on the outside, I have y minus 5. And on the inside, I have x plus 3. All right, again, my third term is negative, so I need to group that with my second binomial. All right, so now I have a second binomial there. So here I've got 6ab and negative 2a. The only thing they have in common is 2 and a. So I'm going to factor out a 2a, leaving me 3b minus 1. Very important to leave a term here. I took the whole 2a. That means you need to put a 1 there. You have to have a placeholder there. Now here, I need to factor out a negative because my third term is negative. So I'm going to factor out a negative, and they have a 3 in common, leaving me behind 3b minus 1. Again, I took the whole 3. I took a negative 3, so it needs to be minus 1. So I have 2a minus 3 in the front, and in the back I have 3b minus 1 in my parentheses. So 2a minus 3, 3b times 3. Okay, my third term here is plus, so I don't have to worry about factoring out a negative. So I've got 12xy plus 18x, so I'm going to factor out a 6x, because 12 and 18 have 6 in common, and they both have an x. So that's going to leave me 2y plus 3. And then 2y plus 3, I don't have anything in common, so really you're just factoring out a 1. So you're leaving the 2y plus 3. You don't really even have to write that 1 if you don't want. You just need to know that there is a 1 there. So when you write this 6x plus 1 up here, you know that there really is a 1 there. And what's in your parentheses is 2y plus 3. Okay, so be careful on that. You need two binomials to be being multiplied together here. Okay, so they have in common an n minus 8. So what's out front? 2m minus what? Minus 1. So it's 2m minus 1 being multiplied by n minus 8. Okay, don't get tricked. All right, now, this is just a matter of factoring out the GCF. So what do 15 and 18 have in common? The largest number they have in common is 3. So you're going to factor out a 3. And then what do x cubed and x squared have in common? The largest thing they have in common is x squared. And what do y squared and y squared have in common? Well, they have y squared in common. So what's left? What's left if I factor out 3x squared y squared from 15x cubed y squared? So 3 from 15, if you do 15 divided by 3, you get 5. If you take 2 x's from 3 x's, you're left with 1x. And if you take 2 y's from 2 y's, you're not left with any y's. So then if you divide negative 18 by 3, you get negative 6. If you take 2 x's from 2 x's, you don't have any left. And if you take 2 y's from 2 y's, you don't have any left. So you're done there. All right, now we're going to factor by grouping again. Because my third term is positive, we don't have to worry about factoring a negative out of the second group. So what do 2x squared and 3xy have in common? Just an x. So you're left with 2x plus 3xy. I'm just kidding, plus 3y. And what do 4x and 6y have in common? Just a 2. So we're going to factor out a 2, which leaves me 2x plus 3y. So you've got x plus 2 on the outside, and on the inside you've got 2x plus 3y. Okay? All right. Third term is negative here, so we're going to group. Leave that negative in there. What do these first two terms have in common? They've got a 5 and an x. So I'm left with just an x plus y here. And then back here, I know I'm factoring out a negative. I'm just factoring out a negative 3, which leaves me with x plus y. On the outside, I have 5x minus 3. And on the inside, I have x plus y. So it's 5x minus 3 times x plus y. All right, third term is positive, so you don't have to worry about factoring out a negative on this one. X cubed plus 3x squared has an x squared in common, which leaves me x plus 3. Okay, so then on our second group, we've got 4x plus 12, which has a 3 in common. Just kidding, a 4 in common. Which leaves behind an x plus 3. So on the outside, you have x squared plus 4. And on the inside, you have x plus 3. So it's x squared plus 4 times x plus 3. Your last one, you have your third term is a negative, so you will definitely be factoring a negative out of the second set. You've got an x squared in common in my first set, so you've got x minus 1, because we've pulled out the whole x squared, but you have to leave that 1 there, which is really important. You're going to factor a negative 2 out of the second group, which leaves me x minus 1. So you have x squared minus 2 on the outside, and then x minus 1 on the inside. That's it, guys. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow.